2025.
Before we begin, we want to make all attendees aware that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the village's YouTube channel within the next 2 working days. Please be mindful of individual privacy and avoid sharing any personal or sensitive information that may not be appropriate for online distribution. If you'd please say here when I call your name to indicate your presence. Laura Peck.
Here.
Lily Vickers.
Jeez,
Okay. Racine Yeager.
Here.
Mike Whitweiler.
Here.
Greg Engel.
Here.
Kevin O'Driscoll.
Here.
Jim Schuler.
Here.
Here, good.
All right, move to approve the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion and possible action on strategic planning process. Mark.
You don't want to just move to approve and, okay. Good evening. This is the first of our, I forget how many, 4 or 5 or 6 scheduled board meetings to work through the strategic plan. I have budgeted 90 minutes for this meeting. I would hope it would be a little less, but that's the general game plan. Within that time, I'd like to work through the scope and some of the terms we'll be using as part of the plan. I'd like to get the board to endorse commitments or ground rules for engagement in the process. We are working on a background report, conditions and trends. If you have particular needs that you don't see reflected in the materials I will share, we'd love for you to let us know what your information needs are. We have a community engagement process that we will be commencing soon. That will include a community survey, at least one. And it will include meetings with stakeholders and focus groups over the course of the next couple of months. I'd like to close our discussion today by talking about that. One of the things you will see throughout our process is a so-called parking lot. So to the extent that you have ideas and interests that kind of stray beyond those, we will definitely record them, but try to get us back to what we need to accomplish in any given evening to get our work done for that day. So that's where we're sort of headed today. I will kind of launch right in and I'll use the strategic plan process framework document, which was part of your packet, as our kind of a touchstone for the entire agenda this evening. And I've got that also up on screen if you prefer to look at it that way. Our project in general is scheduled to be completed by spring of 2026. We have several process steps, and to complete those steps, we have different players involved to make it happen. And all this is subject, I'll take pauses and breaths every now and then. All this is subject to questions and comments as we go forward, so don't hesitate to interrupt me. We've got 2 kind of groups guiding different parts of the process. You as the village board are the policy guidance entity for sure. You'll be providing us with ultimately with a representation of the mission of the village as an organization, a future vision for the community, values and priorities, which we'll discuss what those mean going forward. That's your main kind of focus. At the end of the process, procedurally, we'll ask that you adopt the strategic plan to form the strategic plan of the village of Maple Bluff. In between, we will certainly seek comments and advice on the planning process within the confines of the scope that you all have agreed to. You'll be great helpers in receiving and weighing and interpreting community input that we'll be getting throughout the process and deciding how those relate to the mission, vision, values, and priorities. Helping with developing goals to achieve those priorities. And again, adopting the plan at the end. So that's what we hope the board will be engaged in throughout this process. And as I mentioned, and you'll see later on, it's 5 or 6 meetings and maybe a little bit of homework in between, but not too much. We also have a core team that we've set up for the process. We've met once just to plan for this meeting so far and get our feet on the ground with respect to this inventory report that we'll be discussing more. It's me, George Brown, Tanner, Sarah, and Kevin as the board liaison on that core team. And our job is to keep the process moving forward and productively, and bringing ideas, information to you, the policymakers, to decide what the content and look and feel of the plan is. We will also, once you set priorities, help develop goals, objectives, and terminology. Action steps, we'll see, to carry out those priorities. So that's sort of the two main kind of players and drivers of this process. Stepping forward into the document, it transitions into what is a mission, vision, and values, and what we'll be doing. I can tell you we're not going to be developing any part of those this evening. If you have ideas, great, they'll go in the parking lot. But our main idea over these next couple months is to get good background information, common sets of information for all of you, and to collect community information via survey and focus groups and stakeholder groups. And we will have, as one of our main meeting probably, a forum of the board to develop mission, vision, values, and priorities. And that'll be after the first of the year. What are they? They help distinguish ongoing services from areas.
What are they?
Strategic
They have areas of
change.
strategic change.
The
So
mission,
the mission, vision, value might suggest things that you wish to aspire to, wish to continue to do. Then that ensures continuity, even as you talk also about priorities and changes that you might make in different things. So I go into additional detail in the bullet list below. The general idea being that the priorities you develop, 3 or 4 of them, will align with the mission, vision, and values, but there'll be other ongoing services that you'll continue to provide that'll be aligned with those as well. So terms, I've already tripped up on terminology, and I think it's just important to have a glossary of how we're going to be using terms throughout the process. As George and I think mentioned at the last meeting, every strategic planner has their own terms. So coming up with a common set is useful to make sure that we're speaking the same language wherever possible. I will trip up on using these terms. You will trip up. No big deal. This is how we come back to and sort of organize ourselves. Mission is internal. It's the village's core purpose and responsibilities, kind of the direction of the organization. That direction will be designed to fulfill the vision and values of the community as you interpret them. The vision is the aspirational future state of the village, and values are a set of principles that are a little bit more detailed and guide conduct decisions and expectations. So that's the MVV, and again, we'll work throughout the winter and in our questions of the community before that to help advise those statements. Priorities are really kind of the focus of the plan. Priority is a longer term commitment that suggests some sort of strategic shift in the way you're delivering services or interacting with the community compared to today. We don't know what those are. You might have an idea or two coming into this process, but they're not necessarily, they're not going to be continue to kind of stuff. It'll be things that might represent a change in how you operate as an organization. As we've suggested, we don't want 20 of those. Keeping them to 3 or 4 is essential, in part because for organization and understanding, but in part because it's likely that something else will have to stop being done in order to achieve those priorities. Goal, there will be a series of goals that'll be linked to priorities. This is sort of the bridge point where you will provide advice and the core team will also provide suggestions as to how you achieve your priorities through these goals.
They're in the SMART model, specific, measurable, achievable, results-based, and time-bound. So we'll make sure we keep that in mind going forward. And then it gets specific objectives and activities to kind of be the ground rules or the marching orders to achieve those things. Those are getting into those details is where you lean particularly on your core team, your staff, and to a certain extent, other department heads to help develop, how and when we will be able to kind of carry out those goals and achieve those priorities. I'm going to take a breath and ask if there's any questions or particular comments on anything I presented so far.
We go step by step, right? So you do mission first. Are we doing all things at once, kind of commenting on, kind of looking past the mission to values, or we're going to focus on stepwise project?
We'll take you through a process ideally within the confines of this work session or workshop we'll have in February to work through mission, vision, and values, and hopefully get into priorities as well. So it'll be interactive. There'll be ideas that you'll have that will be like, no, that's not vision, that's mission, that we'll sort out later on. But the general goal of that is to come up with the MVV at the end of that workshop. And George will really be a big help for us at that meeting. We'll be scheduling around him, and he's been down that road and through processes to help boards like you develop those things many times. So that's when he's going to really shine.
George, you want to chime in and give Mark a break here on, you've talked about it before, but your experience?
Well, I was the executive director of the State Bar of Wisconsin for 20 years. And instituted the first both staff and then in order to model for the board, the first workable strategic plan for the State Bar of Wisconsin. State Bar had 20 strategic plans. They're all sitting on a shelf. None of them were ever implemented. So we created one that was implementable and was implemented. When I retired in 2017, the consultant that I had hired to help us with that process asked me to join him in business. And so since then, we've done strategic planning for the State Bar of Nevada. I just finished strategic planning with the Illinois State Bar Mutual Insurance Company, strategic planning for the State Bar of Hawaii, strategic planning for the Wisconsin Electric Cooperatives. But there's a whole bunch of clients like that. And then also I do board orientations. Just did one for the State Bar of Nevada a couple weeks ago. And done community organizing, developed an anti-meth campaign for the Chippewa County Board about 3 or 4 years ago. So just a variety of things like that. But I've been doing planning since the 1980s. Served on the American Bar Association Strategic Planning Committee. I currently chair the Strategic Planning Committee for the Wisconsin Mutual Insurance Company. So just I've done it.
I noticed that the theme here: Nevada, Hawaii.
Hawaii in January is not a lot of fun. Don't go. It rained the whole time.
Okay. It's a little better than Weston.
Yeah.
Great.
And Arkansas in August is not a lot of fun.
Oh, no, that's a good point. So with this process, like any as we're getting started, we've got a smart group of folks here in the room. You will certainly have, and I've heard them, opinions on a variety of different subjects. We like to come up with a kind of a set of ground rules. We call them commitments here that you all read and understand as a group. That I'd love to get a vote that you endorse these or some version of these, as we go forward, and then it'll be our jobs as sort of process police to kind of self-monitor our commitments to that or adherence to that, but also occasionally I may have to bring out the whip, so to speak.
With respect to our agenda, it's discussion and possible action. What possible action?
We'd like you as a board to endorse the commitments that I'm going to present on screen. And I think that's really the only board
as a total action that I'm hoping for today.
Okay.
So just to rumble through them, I won't read every word, but we have 9 suggested commitments. Some of them I'm sure are familiar to you if you've been involved with similar processes. Would not just be you, but we'd all agree to this, the core team plus the board. Be present, regular on-time attendance, and active participation. Thank you all for being here in person. That's very helpful. I would say that if necessary, in the future, for all but one meeting, online is possible. For the workshop, we'd all like to have you all in person, so we'll work to negotiate winter schedules to try to make that happen. Um, uh, Second, foster an open atmosphere. Everyone can express thoughts and ideas without fear of being judged now or at some board meeting 6 months from now. Practice patience, listen actively, let people finish, seek to understand before responding. I can tell you that's one of my great weaknesses. I wasn't on trial, but a judge once told me, Mr. Roffers, you need to let the questioner finish his question before you start answering it. So, I'll need to be policed on this one myself. Be positive, constructive, explain reasons for your positions wherever possible. Assume other people have positive intentions as well. But you're not required to agree with each other when you're necessary, disagree respectfully, explain why. Stay on topic. We'll try to get through each meeting as quickly as reasonable. If we get off topic comments, we'll record them in the parking lot so they won't be lost. But we'll try to quickly get back to the agenda. Stay out of the weeds if you can. Focus particularly on those MVV statements on your priorities for the village. Try to avoid, discussions on allocating staff time and other means to kind of carry out those priorities. That's what your core team, department heads are really here for. Be open and honest, share all relevant information, make sure that decisions are fully informed. If you feel that things are going too fast at any point in the process, it's okay to ask for slowdown and for explanation. That's absolutely acceptable. And then finally, move forward together. Where possible, we'd like to get decisions by consensus of the group. That means everyone basically agrees or is neutral to a particular decision. But if that's not possible, we'll go to votes on individual things. And I think ultimately at the end, to have a vote on the strategic plan probably makes sense. And once decisions are made, whether it's on an interim basis or later, you're not bound to this, but do your best to respect those decisions so we're not looping back to revisit things that have been decided. New information comes up, by all means, and can revisit things.
I'd like to reemphasize that because that's really important. And having served on this board and been on many boards, I know the desire to go back and revisit something if somebody wants to tweak it a little bit, and it just is a death spiral for this process. So if you want to kill it, do that. The other version of that too is that once the decisions have been made and the plan's been approved, you need to support it publicly. You can't be going out there saying they decided. It's we decided. Because you have to sell this plan to your constituents. And support it with them. Otherwise, you put a lot of pressure, negative pressure on both on you and on staff in terms of implementing it. So, because hopefully there'll be new stuff coming out of here, which is always going to make somebody unhappy.
But they have their input too.
Hmm?
They have input as well. our
They will
constituents,
have
right?
that input. They may not agree with your decisions, but
Opportunities to.
you need to support the plan.
These are your commitments, so we put them there humbly. If you want to adjust them or talk about any of them right now, now's the time to do that. Ultimately, we'd ask you to someone to make a motion to endorse them.
They feel like all sunny day type things. Right? I mean, I'm trying to think of one I would object to. I mean, certainly challenge of, I think our challenge will be staying on topic, right? Just looking forward would be my, yes, would be a tough one.
I don't
Yes.
object to any of these. I object to that these are subject to our endorsement. I mean, I find it a little insulting. I mean, I've been on a variety of committees. These are all assumed behaviors that we've all followed. We've never laid them out like this for any committee. I mean,
We're not
none of
objectionable,
us are employees. All of us are elected officials. We've all taken an oath. We've all exhibited pretty collegial behavior. I find this unnecessary. It's fine if we endorse it, but I think I've said what I need to say.
Well, I can only say the intent was not to offend anyone.
I know, I understand that.
You're looking for a motion?
If you're willing, yes.
I'll move to adopt these.
A motion from Greg to adopt the proposed board commitments as stated. Further discussion?
Need a second.
We need a second.
I'll second.
I agree with you, Jim, not in the being offended by it, but I think it's all the things that we should be doing.
Absolutely.
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it's something that we need to vote on. I think it's, if you don't do that, you should be called out. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good to get it in writing. So Mark, I appreciate that. I think voting on it as, I don't know, I mean, as an action item is unnecessary, in my opinion.
And one thing I don't know that I have a question about is number 9. I've heard in the past, specifically when we were working on the referendum, that I can't even remember who I was talking to about it, but there was the opinion that was expressed was that once we agree to something, the whole board should support it. That's not how political bodies work.
I know, that's why this is stated for this process.
Yeah, but I don't see how that can be binding. The other thing that's gonna happen is, you might have a year or 2 years from now, you might have a substantially different board.
Well, absolutely, and that's the plan of the plan is, and that's also why the plan just doesn't get stated or set, and then nothing happens except people work on it. There should be a process for reviewing it on a regular basis, at least annually. And say, okay, and this is where Tanner needs to be reporting to the board. Okay, we've accomplished this, we've accomplished this. And then your job is to say, okay, what else is there that's on the parking lot that we need to be considering now as part of that process? Or what's changed in the world where we need to revisit this goal or this priority or whatever. And that's part of the ongoing, that's part of the implementation process, and the continuous evaluation process that has to occur. Otherwise, it's a static plan and the world changes.
I don't think what George is saying is that it's binding. I think it's that it's in the best interest, if we do decide on this plan, that we all support it in the best interest of the community and staff.
I agree with
To
that.
be able to move forward.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
yeah, that's how
Right.
I look at it. And there's gonna be things that you don't like, and there's gonna be things I don't like, I guarantee it.
And if you don't like it, you should be bringing it up in the meeting and explaining why and arguably offering an alternative.
Right.
But at the end of it, I mean, we need to, the intent here is that we're moving together, whether we agree or not, right?
Ultimately,
For the
yeah.
overall plan,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. You're gonna struggle with that.
I mean, it's tough I can picture issues that might come up that we won't get consensus on. I mean, I think it's a noble thing, but I've been through the strategic planning process professionally quite a few times too. One of the things that we've always told our clients is that strategy involves sacrifice.
Yeah.
So everybody's got to be willing to give up
That's right.
a little something too. And that's part of building consensus. It's a difficult process and you don't always get there. All these things are admirable and I think implied. I don't know what an endorsement does especially. You know, if it makes people feel good, I'm willing to support.
It's basically people agreeing, okay, this is definitely for this process. This, Jim, you know, hell, I lobbied for 20 years. I worked in the state legislature for, you know, a long time. I know what politics are, okay, and I know how meetings occur afterwards, and it's really, we used to have a saying, you know, the added advantage about something is it's being true. Is that it is to say, you know, yes, we voted on it, but I don't like it. Or Tanner shoved this down our throats and now we have to live with it, or whatever you want to do, you know, that's politics. The idea is to take as much of that out of this process as possible.
I get it.
Look at what's best for the enterprise, the village. You know, on a going forward basis, what's gonna change the trajectory, as Mark has been saying, what's gonna make this place better that we're not doing now? And quite honestly, in terms of implementation, what are we gonna have to give up doing? What doesn't make sense? What was that great project now that only 3 people engage in the entire village and costs us, you know, $10,000? Is it still worth it to try to do that? I think when I was on the board, there was something we stopped doing finally that one person was involved in forever. So that's part of this process. It's part of the ongoing process. But the idea is to take as much of politics out of this as possible. You're never going to achieve that in any enterprise, but.
We have a motion and a second, further discussion. All in favor of endorsing the proposed board commitments as stated?
I,
Aye. All right,
Very good. Thank you.
Don't say that. Don't make me feel like I'm in 6th grade any more than is possible.
Might have to go sit in the corner.
Yeah, I'm. It's all coming back.
Our project timeline. So we've got some steps here, and I've got a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about as we weave our way through the rest of this process discussion. First is what we're doing now is getting our initial project understanding and getting organized. I won't spend any more time on that. We are quickly moving to developing a report on current conditions and trends in the community. The purpose of that is to provide a baseline of objective information to help support your decision-making in the strategic plan.
can you expand that one a little, just for the rest of the board that didn't hear it at the core team meeting on what you're doing on
Sure.
information?
Yeah, I've got an outline, but just before I get to that, we are collecting information on the current operations of the village. We'll have some comparisons to other communities in that regard. We're also collecting demographic and natural resource and other information about the community. That'll support not only your strategic planning process, but the long-range comprehensive planning process scheduled to follow. Every 10 years, the village under statute, you don't have to have a strategic plan. There's no one compelling you to do a strategic plan. Any community that does zoning in Wisconsin does have to have a comprehensive plan, a long-range comprehensive plan, and that plan needs to be updated once every 10 years. So we felt that, and you would agree, now that we're collecting background information for the strategic plan, we may as well collect information for the comprehensive plan. There's a lot of overlap there anyway. So we are working internally and with the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission staff to collect background information on the community. We intend to have that done in December and to share it with you. We have an outline that was, I think, in your packet as well, that describes what we're collecting. This, in a long paragraph on the screen, says what I just said. The outline is also on the screen. We will be describing what we're doing within this, describing the history of the community, where you are regionally, which matters significantly, particularly as things change around you. Background information on demographics, age, race, housing, and households. We've got some interesting information and insight. Some of us have been involved in this conversation. Building board had 3 new homes approved. Might have been a record. since at least 1940 something last time. So we have some predictive measures of where we might see more new homes and more demos. And we'd like to collect information on that and share it within this background report. Economic trends and conditions relatively basic for a community like Maple Bluff, but part of what we need to look at for the strategic planning, or I'm sorry, the comprehensive planning project in any respect. So a lot of this stuff you're asking, well, why are you looking at assets and opportunities for economic development? And I'll tell you, because the state's making us is the somewhat poor answer to that question. But some of this stuff is certainly based on mandates. Third part, collecting information on natural resource components. We are looking at some of the information, particularly that the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission collects among these numbered 1 through 6 items on the screen. We're also trying to do our best to get some information on other areas that are outside of floodplains that may be susceptible to flooding even now. We've got some of that information we can include in the report. And the idea is to support not only your strategic plan, but directions for comprehensive planning going forward and different policies related to land use and development after this. Collecting background information on current operations related to both village facilities and sort of facilities that are operating on village lands. That's the general emphasis there. So again, this is mainly based natural, cultural, and recreational resource inventory information. Fourth category is focused on land use and development, an existing inventory of current land uses and trends and land use change. Not a whole lot of difference here between here and 10, 15 years from now, but we'll share that type of information. A lot of this is pertinent to the comprehensive plan. We do have quite a bit of information from the zoning process documenting that development activity over the last 5 to 10 years, building board, other things. You know, when people do want change, what typically are they asking for change? So we'll have that and report that information or re-report it because we did share that a couple of years ago with the comp plan process. Transportation and utilities, information on the existing transportation network, traffic volume changes in the community. We've got the information from the MPO, forget the name of that.
Which one?
No, not Porch Light. It's something light. You know it.
Searchlight?
Yeah. That tracks movement of individuals in and around based on your cell phone data. So
They've already done one
Yeah.
preliminary report. so
we'll
there's
use that.
some-
So, yeah. But you know, other activities going on in the area, transit, bike ped, other things that are affecting you here in Maple Bluff. The other side of that is utility systems. So information, background information, current conditions, capacity trends, concerns related to village sewer and water utilities and other utilities in the area. Background report would transition to describing the condition and operations of your buildings and other lands, your municipal center, and then being one of them. And then a deeper dive into municipal operations. A lot of this will be borrowed pretty heavily from the referendum planning that Tanner and Sarah spent a lot of time with you describing what you're doing as an organization already. And then our final proposed chapter of this background report is we called relationships, what state and regional plans are out there that are affecting you all, and what plans and agreements and developments, particularly with the city of Madison, may be affecting you guys as you go forward. That is the proposed, outline for the work. I can tell you, I met with CARPC staff, Matt and Caitlin last week, and they're charging forward on their part of this. Their part of it is focused particularly on the mapping, the natural resource inventory, and the demographic inventory. This is also an opportunity, maybe to spur something in your head. Hey, we'd really benefit from information on X. Make sure you collect that so we have that data when we're thinking about mission, vision, and values in January. So if you have initial ideas, we'd love to hear them.
One question, education and income. I'm curious how we pick up, or do we pick up where people send where do kids graduate grade school and high school from?
Yes,
Within our
this
community.
should be a part of this, I agree.
Good point.
Reach out to MMSD in particular on that.
Most of them don't go to MMSD.
Country Day, Edgewood.
And there's a lot of some open enrolls,
Mhm,
whether it's Monona or Wanakee.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and whether they go to, some kids go to West, some kids go to
Right,
East.
open enroll outside of Madison, open enroll in Madison.
And then private boarding schools.
Yep,
I mean, we do capture age profile. I'm just curious how many kids we have.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that information and trends. If I'm a betting man, I will say you have fewer kids today than you did 10, 15 years ago.
Not on
I
my,
don't know
not
about
on my
that.
I
street.
don't think so.
All right, it's a bet.
There's a lot of little.
Yeah, a lot of those.
All right, well, that's good stuff. That's good.
We're gonna
No.
have a boom in the winter.
Um,
See
This
it.
is just me asking a question because I see it. Why do we track race and ethnicity?
That is one thing that we are required to trace by statute. If we're not, and it's usually a quick chapter. Why do we track it? I don't know, evidence of cultural change, language needs of the organization might change. There are differences in birth rates among races that can be noteworthy.
On relationships, I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but I'm thinking about agencies or other resources that we might want to have. Kind of part of the plan that we want to know how to access. So for example, CARB-C, MPO, what's the state?
The Department of
Yeah,
Administration.
municipalities,
Saying right now.
how do we, do we have a better way of staying in touch and realizing
Good.
what type of information or services they offer us?
What do those acronyms that you just said, what is that?
CARB-C is a capital area regional planning commission, and that's who's helping us with a lot of this data,
Okay.
mapping data. MPO is
Madison planning.
Madison Planning. Basically, they're in charge of all transportation issues. And
Metropolitan. They're very
they actually
careful
have
about that.
power of the purse over federal road funds going into Madison. So they have a big say in that. They're kind of the brother sister agency to CARB-C.
It's metropolitan planning.
Yeah, metropolitan planning. And then the League of Municipalities is the nonprofit that we get their newsletter every month, and it actually has some good stuff in it.
And under Madison, when we say other, and under City of Madison, there's two things, there's City of Madison and then there's neighborhoods around us. Or,
Neighborhoods in the city.
yeah, I'm just thinking of Tenny Lapham, North Side, I don't know. how
Yeah,
many other-
Northside Planning Council, somebody brought that up just in a recent meeting. Did you bring it up, Greg? That'd be. Eakin Park is on the other side of Packers.
Park, yeah.
Well, we can both map those and connect with them in terms of what their plans and policies are, because every neighborhood in Madison has their own plan.
Well, I'm just thinking about, so when controversial things come up in the past, we've had more leverage with the city when we've gone in with some of these other neighborhood groups.
Hmm.
So for example, there was going to be for lack of a better term, a halfway house that was gonna go in right up about the mouth of Burrows. And a variety of entities had concerns with it and a neighborhood planning group. If Maple Bluff would have gone in there alone, I guarantee he would have gotten completely dismissed. But we went in there with all those other groups. Wow, so.
We touched on this the last time a little bit, but is there any projections on traffic changes as a result of the gigantuan apartment complexes that are been going up across the way here, down on the lake, on the river? Now, you know,
MPO would be the people to ask.
Well, and yeah, and the heart mayor, right?
We certainly, I just added that, so we'll look not just at the past or the current, but what the projections are for, particularly for the primary roads in and around.
They just published, one or both just published a Dane County growth projection.
Yeah, Carpsey did
Yeah,
for population.
yeah, population, but it shows where it is, but
Mm-hmm.
MPO's, feeding off of that too.
Yeah, they basically, they make their traffic projections based on municipal plans, so the extent to which these larger apartment developments are just implementing plans that the city has already adopted, they will be reflected, in their traffic projection.
and the farm is gonna be developed down north of here, right?
On the other side of Lakeview,
Lakeview, yeah.
Isn't that gonna be developed now?
I don't know.
Yeah,
The one that got caught up in the airport.
I know some people have been opposing it, I think that they lost. So I think that's gonna be something, I don't know if it's gonna be multiple family or if it's gonna be single family housing, but.
Should we add the sailing club, into local boards and groups just because they do use?
If we do, we should include the yacht club too. But I think that kind of comes under parks, but
I just didn't know if they were.
they're
Yeah.
important relationships.
You're seeing my problems in spelling out. Is that right?
It's fun when everybody's staring at you.
And I guess the other group I'd
The-
add to that,
Yeah.
it would be Clean Lakes Alliance.
So I'm not saying that any of these groups violate this, but I want to make sure that we're keeping these groups to like groups that with a organized board and XXY
Well, Clean
Garden
Lakes
Club.
Alliance definitely.
I agree.
Yeah.
So if we get feedback, well, you didn't include my garden club or book club, and just,
Yeah.
we've got sort of a minimum, organized board, kind of.
Yeah.
And we've got a number of residents that are on the board of Clean Lakes Alliance.
They got it covered, yeah.
Green Links Alliance, right? Anything else, any immediate reactions as you look at this? This has been helpful.
Well, even though it's in the city of Madison, since. The printing company is now gone. And the construction company's moved out to Sun Prairie. It's a giant. Super area of empty industrial buildings there.
You mean Hooper?
Yeah, or they went out to,
I think there's already plans
are there already plans for that, or?
I think.
for the Kramer Planting site.
Oh, for that, okay, yeah.
Or maybe it's the Hooper building, either I
Yeah.
heard or read.
Somebody bought that though.
Isn't Cullen?
Yeah, I
And we
think
use it for
so.
storage, yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, come and put that over.
For storage or?
Yeah,
I don't know what their overall plan is for
Yeah.
it, but.
It's a good to note. And when I hear storage, I hear something that might be the next 10 years, and then the economy will spin it again out for, some other.
Is the Kramer building, is that the red one that was the printer?
Yeah,
Okay.
What are they doing with that?
Oh, it looks like a tree fell on it though. That's,
building is that?
It's not web prep.
What crap?
That's what I was thinking
Tractor
of.
Building that they sold it to Sheridan, then Sheridan shut it down.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this the same building we're talking
I
about? Or
don't
there's
know,
two?
I don't know what the
That's
Kramer.
actually-
They're two different buildings. So Hooper's is, the
Okay.
Hooper building is over on Packers. The
Yeah.
Web Crafters building is on Fordham.
Road.
Okay, so web
But they're
crafters,
across the railroad tracks from each other.
okay,
You just confused.
all important, save as. Should have done that first. Very good, thanks for the diversion, so you will see a draft of that report in December.
In
But if there are
December.
other things that come.
But if there are other
to your
things
mind
that come
say,
to
"Hey,
your mind, is that,
you really
hey,
need to
Roffers,
collect
you really need to
information on
collect
this, that,"
information on this, that.
I'm just gonna
I'm just
throw
gonna
her
throw her
under
under
the
the bus and reach out to Sarah.
And Sarah
And
will
Sarah will
get
get
those
those requests to me. Thank you, Sarah, for agreeing to that.
that.
So
Gave
add
me a
those off to
choice.
Brenda.
Yeah, right.
That must have been, no, yeah, ground rule number 10 that I didn't include. Thou shalt not nominate other people to do work.
Feeling guilty of scope creep here, but I'm just thinking of more information about our current residents in terms of tenant and home, where they
Renting.
move from. I mean, is there any value in that, or is that getting picked up somewhere or not
The
value?
length of residency is, I think, a census piece of information that we'll have, for sure. And you mentioned, did you mention some other thing, Kevin?
Length of residency and,
Like relocation.
yeah, where you moved.
Oh.
I don't know what has value there, if anything.
Where from is gonna be harder,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
What about rental units?
yeah, absolutely, we
There's
can,
more and more houses that are being rented.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be useful.
It'd be interesting to get a better idea. Last time we talked about it, I remember we don't know how many people live in either of the apartment buildings that are in the village.
Right.
We have moles there,
Huh?
don't we? We have moles there, don't
We
we?
used to have some really new stuff, but. And do we have any interest in knowing if this is their primary residence? Does that have any value?
yes,
Like, I feel like some people have some pretty fancy vacation homes,
Well, some people aren't,
or they're 6-month residents of
Yeah.
Florida. I don't know if this has value to us or not.
So we're putting in there for now.
I think we do get that from the census information, and I think the key is not how many there are now, is what kind of movement is there,
Right.
right?
Change.
Well, that has, yeah, doesn't that have a huge impact on resources? In terms of what resources are being used when?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, you don't like vacant houses, right? So if somebody has a house that they only use 3 months a year,
There's a couple of those on the lake, I think.
yeah,
I don't know.
maybe it's a good
A
thing.
vacant house might be better than some other possibilities. Depends who moves in.
I think most of that, so I'll do my best on school stuff, by the way, just to backtrack a little bit, some of that stuff is not easy to obtain. Some of it is, we do quite a bit of work for school districts, and we'll do our best.
Though the empty nester thing, not the empty nester, but the empty house thing does put a certain focus on resources, whether it's, monitoring for water leaks, keeping an eye on
Insurance.
the security of the property, whatever.
Squatting has become very fashionable in Chicago. You're gone for a couple of months, you come back and somebody and they've got a bill of sale.
Well,
Really?
That happened here.
Hopefully we've addressed
Yeah,
that.
Six
Yeah.
months ago, well,
Yeah.
sold.
So I could rent out my neighbor's place. They're leaving for Florida next week.
I think there was.
Another bad law we have. another taking of a property right. Don't get me started.
All right, I'm
Which
prepared
one?
to move forward here today.
Thank you.
Sure.
Would access date give you? Like, quality enough information in terms of where the tax bill is being sent?
Yeah, absolutely. That'll tell you whether it's owner occupied or not. But it doesn't necessarily tell you if someone's a full-time or a part-time resident. They can choose where to have their bill sent. Could be a PO box.
Are you trying to do all this data collection passive? I mean, you're not gonna send out a survey to the residents on this info.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah. It's secondary, yeah, information.
Obviously, it'll take work, but
I think if we are gonna do a survey and it's difficult to find the schools where kids are being sent to school, I mean, that would be helpful to add. At least,
Yeah, as a demographic question, you have kids,
Yeah,
yes
I mean,
or
that
no,
survey
where do they go to
would-
school?
yeah,
Mhm.
just if it's difficult to find that information.
The problem with getting that type of information from a survey is it's really useful if you get 100%
100%.
participation.
So, yeah,
So
It would just give you an
on
estimate.
matters of opinion and things like that, it's, I don't know what would be statistically verifiable.
And you also have to ask yourself, well, what difference does it make to village services too? With any of these things, not just that.
Mm.
Right. How do you encourage survey participation?
You give something away.
Amazon.
I'm serious.
That's some of it. Some of it is don't ask too many questions.
Right. We saw that one from, was it Stoughton?
Yeah, 20 some pages.
But it's amazing.
You start approaching 20 questions.
Questions.
And I'm not talking about tiered
Yeah.
questions, I'm just talking about simple question, then you start peeling off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The other way to feel is to ask demographic information first.
So we had our zoning survey that I would say was pretty long. And we had about 30% of the adults respond to the survey in Maple Bluff, which is a really high response rate. I bet if we cut the survey back.
That's great.
Well, it's a great response rate, except in academia, if it's anything less than 90%, then it's invalid. So.
No, that's
in the
not true,
business world,
George.
well, yes, in the academic world. In the business world, if it's 10%, it's great. But
Yeah, I think the key is to understand who is responding. Have a basic set of demographic, questions. If it's 30% and everyone's 85 or older, then you probably have a problem saying this is representative of the community. But
Right, it's statistically valid.
so anyway, we will definitely, and this is where I wanted to go next with our discussion tonight. So we are going to administer a survey. We still have to decide whether we do it frankly before Christmas or after Christmas. We're going to try to get it out between the holidays, but it's not always advisable. The point of the survey, let's just go to where, is to understand residents' vision, values, desired identity, assets, opportunities, and challenges of the community. And I'll leave this for discussion. So vision, values, identity, I think is kind of the key aspects of the community or this community survey. What people like about the community, what people don't like about the community. And we could talk about this, but as far as I go into services is to have them prioritize which ones are the most important versus lesser important service priorities. But I don't think we should try to do in a survey, at least this survey, is to say, hey, do you want to have the village to keep providing fire and EMS services, or should we contract with the city of Madison? That's, in my opinion, too specific for now, for the survey.
General governance, what does that mean? They're gonna get rid of the board, please?
Yeah, I suppose. It maybe relates to priorities, like I mentioned, service priorities.
you know, here's
Priorities is
here's the
right-
10.
Right word.
yeah, here's the 10 things that the village does, which are the most important, or you've done this before, shift them up, down, left to right.
Yeah, just,
Operation and expenditure priorities.
I'm just perhaps delete general governance and just expenditure priorities or operational expense. Generally not a fly specker like what's sign line.
It's okay. Um, so my question is, what topics do you as a board, is when you're gonna be asked to lay out, mission, vision, value for the village in January, what topics do you want the survey to cover? What do you need to learn from the community, broadly speaking?
Are we talking about like safety or services?
You could, like I said, we could ask a question on services. I saw a couple heads nod.
What services do you most value?
Right,
I'd almost, I wonder if we could design a survey that becomes an annual tool
Mhm.
that kind of measures both the feel of the community, what people's priorities are. So I think Mark's right. We don't necessarily ask yes or no questions, but we're asking people to rank things and to basically score things.
As long as you ask the same questions every time,
Yeah,
then you've got trending data.
which I think would be
Very
useful
valuable.
over time.
If you don't wanna ask a question like fire and EMS. Do you ask a question of how do you value independence as a community?
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of along those lines. I think it'd be interesting to try to find out what value do people place on the relationship with Madison or with the surrounding areas? Like, do they want us to try to engage more with Madison? Do they want to engage less? No. That's something that would sort of tease that out.
Mhm.
Some of those questions are better answered in focus groups than in surveys. But
And please don't
it's an
take
interesting question.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, John.
No, go ahead.
Please don't take what I'm writing up here as the question that'll be in the survey. This is me,
Mhm.
trying to get
Could
notes.
we ask something, Lily had mentioned safety, I mean, is that something that we could, I don't know how you would even say it, but address that or feeling of, or, whatever it is.
Maybe I can put Tanner on the spot. Are there different approaches to public safety that are either or kind of options? And that's the first question. And then the related question is, if there are, would they require a 2-paragraph description to communicate what those are?
I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the question, to be honest.
Yeah,
Specific to public safety. I have to think about it.
Or, I'm struggling with some of these questions of this is a sunny day question. Do you like sunny days? I like a safe community. No one's
Right.
gonna disagree, right?
right.
Was there a why do you live here component? Like, what is your priority?
Why do you pay more to live here than somewhere else?
There's, I think ranking those types of things and prioritizing them is the best way to approach them. Things that are that open-ended are really difficult to develop actionable data from.
Mhm.
But if we ask people to, and we might have done that already when we did the referendum survey. But if we ask people to rank, why do you live in Maple Bluff?
We did.
Safety,
And,
character, service.
So I'm sorry, you can't read this, but
Yeah,
this was
I
part of the
can.
zoning survey.
Yeah,
It said what?
Oh, the
From the
zoning survey.
choices below, please list the top 3 reasons why you choose to live in Maple Bluff. And so the longer the bar, the more, number one was blue, number two, two was red, number three was green. So the top ones were small community atmosphere, Lake Mendota, waterfront, good community services, including recreation, and there was other.
But even how you phrase those could be different. So for the public safety one, it could be quality of police department. That would get it, that's a slightly different way, and you get slightly different
Mhm.
information instead of saying low crime
That
rate.
is also true.
Yeah, this isn't service oriented, it's more atmospheric.
Correct.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think it's useful information that doesn't require us to ask this exact same question
Exactly.
twice.
Yep.
How about, how many people use the programming that we have?
Well, I think that comes to, I agree with you, but I think that comes to, like, I'm just thinking through, if I had the question would be, if I had $1 to spend, I'd like to spend it where?
Mhm.
These three, on these topics.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that in small group meetings or surveys, is you give someone $100 budget and ask them to distribute it among, these X.
Because I do feel, we are all experts on, oh my gosh, my taxes. Why did you guys do a referendum? And then when you ask people, why not, please recommend a change? It's crickets. So my point with that is only, until you really look at the budget, you don't have any. It's easy to talk like, oh, we can do better here. I'm just curious on where do we want to spend our money, and actually, what do we most value?
What do we want to prioritize? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
if we're gonna have a implementable strategic plan. We're gonna know where we're gonna focus and what we're gonna put off.
Is there some sort of question on what you suggest the village would should do differently? Trying to figuring out framing of that.
That's pretty open ended.
Right. It absolutely is.
Are there
It's
any comments, like, if you allow people to write amended answers?
Yeah, we'll have one or two open-ended, and the beauty of AI nowadays is you can
Yeah.
evaluate those without bias,
One approach would be, what would make you leave Maple Bluff?
Or what would you change about Maple Bluff?
And I assume that a lot of these are gonna be tied back into the age and the demographic of those who are answering these questions, because obviously throughout seasons of your life, your priorities change.
yes, we could do that, if we try to parse the results too finely. What are the 55 to 65-year-old, then we'll
Yeah.
have 10 responses and you won't be
Right.
able to do too much of that, but
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I'm in there too.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little age.
Not going to.
Yeah, he's
music
gonna be
together
upset.
anymore. Maybe we
It's
should
seldom
start
I want to go over
going.
where I'm not the oldest person.
Yeah.
So
I
Yeah,
also,
thanks for coming. today.
just
Otherwise I would.
keep you younger, yeah.
in terms of demographic questions, I will just say from the zoning survey, and I have the other referendum survey here. From the zoning survey, we asked, are you a resident or not? That was one. How long have you lived here?
Wow.
Employment status.
When was that survey again, remind me?
2023.
Okay, so pretty recent.
Yep. Your age.
What's the last part? 40, is it 65?
65 plus. Yeah. That's
So that is just capturing old people who are retired who are responding, right?
Yeah, so with more time on their
yeah.
hands.
So it's a very
Currently
common.
not
We
employed.
compare that.
There's only 30%
So-
responded.
Yeah.
It's a very common, but we compare that.
So 73% of respondents are 50 years of older age.
This is the census suggests
Suggested about 58 are that age or older. So, we
about
can
58
share
are that
where the
age or
survey
older.
is
So,
tilted.
we can then share
demographic or another.
where the survey is
very
tilted
typical,
to
by
one
the way.
demographic or another. That is very typical,
Young
by the
people
way.
do not
fill out surveys.
They don't must give stuff away.
Young people do
Oh,
not
must give
fill out
those away.
surveys.
And then we had a question on children. Oh, I lost my feed. Share. Okay. And we had questions on children.
And we had questions on children, on,
Yeah.
yeah, so how,
We had 65% didn't have any children in the household. I think that was
65%
Because
of
there's 65
Yeah,
children.
right.
So those are the
Again,
kind of
Thinks there's a problem.
So those are
kind of the demographic.
those were
questions on that
kind of the
survey, and
demographic
then
questions on that
Falls under
survey, and then
secondary.
the referendum, I don't know, did we ask any
other
demographic questions?
I don't recall if we asked demographic information.
You know, the other thing, when we're talking about all these school issues and things like that, I think. You know,
I
if
don't
we've
think
got to
so.
sacrifice anything, let's sacrifice subjects that we. Can't do anything about.
Have no control over.
Yeah, I mean. We really don't. In terms of. Can't do anything about schools, we really.
There's no solution.
I mean, it's
It caught,
good to know, but I don't know how it helps us develop a better strategic plan.
I suppose the only thing I could say to that is if, to the extent that you get a community information on how MMSD or whatever, how the school is, you could approach them government to government and say, this is what our community wants. But you're right, you don't control that, no.
I suppose the only thing I got, no
Well, and
municipality.
I think Jim has identified a challenge, which is that it may be interesting, but is it useful?
that one's
Right,
interesting
and if
to
we
me.
gotta drop
because of the-
something, you know.
That's interesting to me because of the money we spend on it and we don't use it. So I don't have I really don't. I don't have some big agenda on like, we need to change school districts, but.
Oh, no, I think
a
it's
big-
really
a
interesting.
big number,
Yeah.
and I feel like we should be advocating for better perception of city school.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So from a strategic viewpoint, you don't engage right now, so there's no engagement really with MMSD. So I'm just saying, if you decided you got something that you wanted to pursue, then you could say, well, 2/3 of our tax dollars are going to MMSD, and we don't even engage with them.
So,
I didn't catch your comment, Greg.
I think that just was sort of along what Mark said, that could be, if the residents were interested, that could be a priority of the village to try to engage with.
Right.
MSD to try to
Right.
influence.
you know, when we talked about this, and I might be remembering this wrong, when we were talking about this just last year, I believe we got an opinion from our attorney saying, stay out of the whole school thing. The municipality has nothing to do with the school district.
Nothing legally, that is correct.
Huh?
That's correct, nothing legally.
Nothing
District is a
legally, so
separate
then
governing
I mean, it's,
It's,
how are tax,
Can
Huh?
you change school districts?
what?
Can you
Yeah.
change? school
N-
districts?
but
By
not
the-
to the municipality.
Not easy.
by the
It's up to
agreement
the
of both,
individual property owners.
both districts would have to agree.
No, but the municipality has no role in that. So if there was a group of neighbors that wanted to go to a different school district, if there was a neighborhood, if there was a household, there's a mechanism for that. But our attorneys advised that the municipality should stay out of that. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be involved. The school district, I don't think the board should be involved with the school district, or we should have an official school committee. I think it's
Yeah,
great
or
if parents are involved with their different schools.
Cross that bridge. I think really going back to what we were actually talking about is whether it would be valuable information, whether the board uses it or some separate person
I think
uses
it'd be
it.
interesting, yeah.
It's been a pretty significant topic over the past, well, since I've lived here, which is 20 years.
Parking
I
lot.
think it's a community and it would be a community information that would be valuable for the community, not necessarily the board, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in many things, but I am in how school districts work because I spend half my time working for districts. And so we can certainly include that sort of FAQ type information in the background report. Who runs the schools? It ain't the city.
Mhm.
So just rule number one, and if you want to change public school districts, unless you were to get special legislation adopted, it requires the approval of both the MMSD and the receiving school district. And the MMSD is not giving up tax base and kids. That's opinion. but
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
Yeah.
But I want to know why we don't use our public schools,
yeah.
and I don't know that.
Mhm. We could certainly include that in the survey, and it could influence a priority if the, board feels it's a priority to engage more with the school district and. one
My
way or the
priority
other.
would be that we all use City Madison Public Schools.
So Mark, one of the ideas is to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts from survey results.
Mhm.
But then there's also the commentary that we should probably create a tool that's gonna be used longitudinally over the course of many years. So could there possibly be some things that we would want to maybe seem semi-redundant? Because it's already been asked, but maybe the new framing is important to capture.
Yeah, it depends on where your starting point is, whether you want to, your starting point is the 2023 zoning survey or now. But it is not uncommon for communities to have an annual budget survey, so to speak. And we could look at common questions that are related to budget and services. Sure. And it's also possible that you might have a 15-question survey and then only ask 5 questions each year of that, subset of those 15. I mean, this is really good stuff. I mean, I've got.
Is it, or are we getting in the weeds?
No, you're all right. You took the direction, what topics do we want to learn about? Not, trying to write a specific question. That's where, someone like me goes into a dark room and tries to write a intelligent, defensible question.
How do we follow up on this? Because I'm sure we're gonna go home and think of some ones that are pretty interesting.
This is an exercise in devil's.
I find it
Someone
useful
should hear
to text
about that.
Mark in the middle of the night.
Yeah, Jim has my text.
Why did I share that?
I'll say this is
That's so
Sarah,
smart.
I'm gonna ask that Sarah delegate your commentary, please direct it, Sarah. But I'm gonna ask her to delegate that to Brenda, so that Brenda can compile.
But yeah, we're not getting the survey out next week. So survey topics, let us know. Hey, I'd really like to learn about that.
I mean, I feel like I'm at a loss for what most people in the village think. I don't know.
Here's a different subject that I might be interested to find out. I brought it up a few years ago, and I think state legislation has changed. What value would it be to village residents if we had our own broadband service? So if you moved into Maple Bluff, have a high-speed internet function.
Oh,
And that's what
like-
services do you want? What additional services?
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to the blackout we've had for the last 4 days here.
Really, we had one, what happened?
It's 48 hours.
Yeah, I did, well, here, but did you have it at your home?
Oh, I got knocked off.
Who do you get service?
AT&T.
Oh, really? Mine was fine.
Yes, it was a particular junction box that went out.
Oh, okay. So it was unrelated to the Amazon fiasco.
Right. It was related to it. But what happened was that among the 500 people in this junction box, or 500 households in this junction box, one of the modems was sending light back, which knocked out the junction box.
But maybe what Jim's saying is like Starlink, if they have a community plan or something like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, there are different communities have their own.
There are different models. Reedsburg runs their own broadband. It's possible.
Yeah, you could get a better deal maybe.
Why would I love to do
Better
that?
deal. I'm just thinking of ways to differentiate ourselves.
Okay.
The cable
Yeah, I
company?
mean, it's fantastic.
You thought you didn't like us before.
They don't have our own schools, but we got.
So the final,
broadband.
I want to be sensitive to the time. We're about 15 minutes to 6. The other thing that we're going to be doing is small group meetings. That'll include visiting with organized committees and groups and folks. And also getting some people together. So like a focus group or 2. So what my final ask of this group is, who do you think we ought to meet with?
And you can be specific or general at this point. And, you know, what do you hope to learn from them? And before I close, because this is going to be the closing thing, I'm going to mention, and this is based, I think, on a comment that Greg had. We talked about in the preliminary scope, 2 surveys, or you do this, do that. We've got kind of 2 waves of opportunity for input. This is the first wave, community survey, initial stakeholder focus groups. You'll learn what you do. We'll get together in January for the mission, vision, values workshop. And undoubtedly you'll say, well, we need to hear more from X group, or we need to test this idea with Y group. And so we've got a second wave of opportunity for input, but we don't know what exactly that is yet right now. So we'll have a chance to kind of catch up if there's specifics that we need to deal with.
Are there gonna be some just general sessions where anybody can come or some sessions?
We can definitely do that. I've certainly got that as part of the end, a community forum. Where we get closer to a strategic plan, or maybe we have priority, the board has priorities. Something that we can share and get response from in a general forum. I don't know, in my experience, those usually work better that way than, what do you think? What should we do? So the question again is, who should we meet with now? And what do you want to learn from when we get to meetings?
It's always struck me that Maple Bluff is divided 2 different ways. It's divided upper Bluff, lower Bluff for
Fuller's Woods.
Fuller's Woods. And it's divided, it's lakeshore, not lakeshore. Would it be useful to get people from all of those areas? Whether individually, if you want to treat them separately, if you want to treat them together, would it be useful to get people like old farts like me who've been here for 35 years versus the people who moved in last week?
I feel like it's old people versus new people I don't know, or young people with families. I mean, I feel like there's like
Little kids.
old people, I'll put myself in that category, and people with little kids that are new. But I don't feel an upper and lower Bluff dynamic.
But it's always been,
Yeah,
I mean,
People
natural.
baseball.
Yeah. You should have adjusted, I don't think there's a thought.
Well, I think if the survey is designed right, we'll see, I suggest we get the survey done first, and based on what we see in there, that could inform some way to break down focus groups if we do wanna focus on specific demographics or psychographics.
When we first had
Do
this
that.
conversation, Mark and I had a quick back and forth about something very similar. The dynamics, not only Upper Bluff, Lower Bluff, Fuller's Woods, Lakeside, not Lakeside, but then also Sherman Corridor
Mhm.
residents, and then also if you live adjacent to the golf course. There
Or
may
if
be a
you're a
variable that-
member or not.
Member, no.
Yeah.
I keep
There's
it awfully
multiple
quiet.
that divide us. Come together.
Mike's been billing.
I think a small group that could be really informative down the pike would be realtors.
Mhm.
So you guys know who's moving in, what's attracting people, what's not attracting people.
Mhm. That's a very good idea.
When I first got involved in village politics, I had lunch with
Did we even
Hans
have
Johnson,
realtors
who
then?
was president. Yeah, we had village government then. With Hans Johnson, who was the president then, and he said, remember he said majority of our residents, their biggest investment is their property. He said, so I try and keep it back in my mind, every decision we make, am I improving property value or not?
Well, and I never can remember the road that is the extension of Cambridge. That's
Woodland
across-
Circle?
Woodland Circle.
Yeah.
A lot of those folks used to work at Oscar Mayer. 35 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Now they're not. I mean, there's a whole different
No, they're not
dynamic.
there, yeah.
There's a whole different dynamic with regard to that.
Well, a lot of people in Maple Bluff worked for Oscar Mayer. You're talking about at the plant
Yeah,
or
I'm
in the
talking about the
offices,
plant,
but
yeah, the
yeah.
kill line and stuff like that.
That country club versus non-country club. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot there.
So one
broad
broad
idea, and I think it was
And-
Jim, you said it.
I think it was Jim, you said
Maybe
it.
we'll know more about what specific groups to contact based on
Maybe-
who responds to the survey or what they tell us in the survey.
Well, if we got,
More
if we
what
know what
specific
age they are, what part,
to
you know, if we
contact
see
based
certain
on
things
what-
cropping up that seem to be particular to a specific group, and we want to dig further into that.
Yeah.
We got the data to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, or I was thinking.
Yeah,
if we,
I was thinking if
offense,
we
just get a lot of old
no
people,
offense, just
then we
get
realize we have to do something else to
old
get the young
people.
people.
Well, that's
Then
the
we
other thing,
realize we have
too.
to do something
Um,
else to get the young
And so
people.
what I think we could do is just put our head down, get the survey done, get it out,
And
where we, the
so-
20th, mid-November. And get the results back before the holidays, before Christmas. And then there's certain folks we can still talk to in the meantime, but we don't, blow our budget on groups before we know which groups are really gonna be pertinent, underrepresented, for instance.
Well, and particularly if we're focusing on demographics and the younger people aren't responding, one of the, other than giving them $100 bill, would be to actually making phone calls saying, please fill out the survey.
Yeah,
Not an email, but a phone call.
or a card, or when I just
Business
finished,
cards made with QR code.
yeah, that's what.
I just filled out my wreath order with the Boy Scouts today. If the Boy Scouts could drop off cards, just reminding people the QR code is a great idea for those. people
Encourage
who
them
use it.
to do it around the Thanksgiving table. Family there.
Oh, we could also, well, to your point, I mean, the wreath delivery is a Saturday, that's after Thanksgiving, I think.
Yes.
Well, right.
Who's delivering the wreaths? The Boy Scouts?
But the other thing
Yes.
is, we've got to tell people more than once, and ask them more than once,
Yeah, we'll definitely come up with a strategy to get response.
and it should be a variety of fronts.
It's a social
Mark's on.
groups in the neighborhoods that we can.
There's a lot of people who don't know what to do with the QR code.
Fair enough.
Right.
Something in
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
Point your phone at it.
It finally, about a week ago, I finally figured out how to use it.
Oh, George.
I don't
Not
like
far
names.
off. Not far off.
It's really easy to go to the restaurant saying, I don't do this.
Oh.
What's your beer list?
It's the first thing I do when I walk into a VRBO. Get all the, all the streaming services lined up with QR codes.
Magic.
I think we've expired the agenda for today,
I didn't hear anyone say no about your plan.
about
Timeline.
putting our head down on the survey, getting the survey out, and
Yeah.
then have that inform the groups. I like that.
Mhm.
We can do that, and it helps me focus on one thing rather than two at the same time.
You're asking for a motion to adjourn,
Yes.
If you'd like it, yeah.
Second.
all in favor?
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Several, appetizers.